I recently sat down with New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and he took your calls. Join us on One-on-One for more of Christie on the Line.
Funding for this edition of Christie on the Line has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons PC, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, United Water, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, Verizon Communications, Barnabas Health, PSE&G, Seton Hall University, TD Bank, Qualcare Inc., Virtua, and by these public-spirited organizations and individuals that support the effort to inform New Jersey citizens about the issues that matter most in our state. Media support provided by the Star-Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Let's go to Bloomfield, New Jersey. Mark, how you doing? Steve Adubato here with Governor Chris Christie. How you doing?
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Governor.
Yes, sir.
What is your stand on closing of the developmental centers for the mentally disabled? I have a brother in Hutterton, and we're a little worried about, we're getting pushed into these group homes, and some of these kids are like 2 or 3 years old with the mentally handicapped. They're not going to be able to go into a group home, Governor.
Thank you, Mark.
You're absolutely right. Listen, here's my view on it. There's going to be some developmental centers that may wind up being closed, and here's why. Because there's a great number of the people who are currently in group homes, who are currently in developmental centers, who would be much better in group homes. Now, there's always going to be some people who are so profoundly disabled, like the reference you just made, that they're going to need institutions for those folks, developmental centers. And so anyone who tells you we're closing all the developmental centers in the state is just wrong. We have a commission right now that was created by virtue of a bill sponsored by Senator Jeff Van Drew from Cape May County. And I have appointees to it, the Senate President and the Speaker have appointees to it, that are holding hearings and examining the question of, should we close any developmental centers? And if we should, which ones? But I will tell you that anyone who's so profoundly disabled that they need to be institutionalized, they will have a slot in a developmental center in New Jersey.
So let's go back to Franklin Lakes. I apologize, Mike, for diverting our attention. This is Christie on the Line. Talk to the governor, more importantly. Hey, Mike, you there?
Yes.
Hey,
Good.
Mike.
Talk to the governor. You probably got distracted by my distraction.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hello, Governor. I would like to know, as an American contractor, I pay my taxes, pay my guys on the books. How am I supposed to compete against the illegal immigrants that aren't paying taxes?
Well, listen, I have to tell you something. It's a big problem, and it's a problem that needs to be dealt with by the President and the Congress. State by state, we can't deal with the immigration issue in this country. It's a federal problem. And I think that this president, candidly, has failed, and this Congress and the last Congress has failed. President Bush tried to do something about this when he was in office. Congress shut him down. President Obama hasn't even tried to fix this, nor has the current Congress. And so I think that we need to have folks in Congress and in the White House who understand a dilemma like he just talked about, and understand that we need to get a logical, sane approach to immigration in this country that obeys the laws and that respects the people who are here. And, right now we don't have that system in place, and it causes a lot of consternation on all sides. But at the state level, we can't do much to fix that. It's a federal problem that needs to be fixed.
We'll go back and talk about federal politics or national politics just a little bit later on. You don't mind?
No.
Because you're always on national shows. I see you all the time.
Thank you.
Let's go to our partners at the Star-Ledger and NJ.com for another video question for the governor.
What initiatives or ideas do you have to support charter schools and their startup in the state of New Jersey?
Joanna, go ahead. Joanna, how do you pronounce her name? Tahita.
Tahita.
Right. Yes.
Tahita, we have opened more charter schools in the Christie administration than any administration since Governor Whitman. And I believe that the focus of charter school openings in New Jersey should be in failing school districts. In school districts that are failing the kids currently, where they and their parents need options and they don't have them. And we need to have more and more charter school seats in places like Newark and Jersey City, Trenton, Camden, Patterson, Passaic, places, Asbury Park, places where the school districts are failing these kids and their parents don't have the economic wherewithal to be able to send their child to a private school or a parochial school as an option. We need to have a public charter school which gives them an option for their kids to succeed. I'm going to focus our efforts on failing school districts.
Let's go to Randolph, New Jersey. We have Lisa.
Neighbor.
Is that a neighbor of yours?
Yes, I'm a neighbor. Hello.
Absolutely.
Lisa, let me ask you, I don't want to put the governor on the spot, or you, but what kind of neighbor is the governor? You see him take out recycling? What do you see him do?
He's an excellent neighbor, I have to say.
What is she going to say?
Well, she could say, listen, I don't know who she is. She could say whatever she wants to say. She's telling the truth. Why are you such a cynic?
I'm not, listen.
She's a New Jerseyan. She's a New Jersey woman. That means, by definition, she tells the truth.
Yes. Lisa, I want to thank you so much for engaging the governor in a spirited discussion. No softballs tonight. Go ahead, Lisa.
Governor, how are you planning on implementing President Obama's health insurance reforms so that residents of the state of New Jersey don't have to start leaving to move to Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, listen, we're going to have to see whether the president's health insurance reform is found constitutional. Now, we're taking all the steps that we need to take in planning in our Department of Health to be able to implement federal health care reform if it comes through. But I think we all know that this is going to be argued for 3 days in front of the new United States Supreme Court this spring, and everyone anticipates there'll be a decision by the Supreme Court on the constitutionality of the federal health care reform by the end of June this year. So we're not making any huge investments in it until we know that it's constitutional. If it's not, we're all going to have to go back to the drawing board. If it is, New Jersey is positioned to meet the law if we need to. But we've spent the minimal amount we've needed to be able to get ready, because if it turns out to be unconstitutional, Steve, I don't want to waste the people's money.
Got to do this real quick, Governor. Joanna Gagas, our producer, I promise you I'll get to that question, but I'm going to ask the governor this. In all seriousness, you have done a lot of national programs. Today Show, Morning Joe. You're actually doing Morning Joe tomorrow.
Yes.
To do this. And I've also seen you on Piers Morgan doing some personal stuff and family. How has your family dealt with, you have 4 kids. And Mary Pat is a strong figure.
Yes, she is.
How have they dealt with all the national attention?
Well, listen, I think they've dealt pretty well. I mean, listen, life's become different. And I think the biggest way, there's 2 big ways it affects the kids, obviously, is that, I'm not around as much as I used to be. And I think, that can be difficult for them at times. And whenever we go out any place now, there's really no privacy. If we go out to dinner, my daughter Bridget, who's 8 years old, said that she said this at dinner one night, my least favorite words in the world are, I hate to interrupt, Governor, but.
Right. They'll do it anyway.
Yeah, when we're out to dinner and stuff. And listen, most people are very nice, and I don't mind it. But it affects the kids more than it affects me. I'm used to it. But, they have a pretty normal life. Like, my daughter Sarah turned 16 this week. We're at a big Sweet 16 party for her this weekend. We still do normal things that normal New Jersey families do. And we try to keep it as normal for our kids. That's why we didn't move to the governor's residence in Princeton, because our kids all would have had to change schools. We didn't want to do that. We wanted them to stay in the schools that they're in and have as normal a life with their same friends that they had before I became governor. So Mary Pat and I work really hard at trying to keep it normal, but we can't say it's the way it used to be. It's not. When Oprah Winfrey comes to your house, things become different. And
you hanging out with Oprah these days?
Not hanging out, but she came to the house to interview us, and that's the first time my kids actually thought I was cool.
That's pretty cool.
Oprah Winfrey came to the house.
Andrew thinks you're cool?
Yes. Yeah, currently. But, that's changeable. He's 18, so that can change on a moment's notice. And once he goes away to college this fall, it'll definitely change.
Good stuff. Let's go back and see if Jack, who I believe is in Wyckoff, thinks you're cool. Jack, how you doing? Steve Adubato here, and we are with Governor Christie on the line. Go ahead, Jack.
Governor Christie, good evening.
Thanks, Jack.
Governor, your colleagues in Wisconsin and in Ohio have tried to balance their budgets by changing the collective bargaining systems, and Governor Walker is now facing a recall election. Do you feel that what they're trying to do would be a reasonable way to deal with it here in New Jersey as well?
Well, it's not possible to be done here in New Jersey. I mean, the fact is that you have to know your limits here. And when you have a Democratic legislature, as I do, the idea of doing something like that is just not politically possible. And so I'm not going to judge Scott Walker or John Kasich on what they decided to do. The people of their state will judge them. We've dealt with things in a very upfront way here in New Jersey, and I have to tell you the truth. I think we've dealt with it in a fair way here. And I'm engaged in collective bargaining right now with state workers unions. As I said before, I settled with a number of them. And we're settling on tough terms for the people of this state. That's my job. My job is to represent you. They have their representatives in the union. My job is to represent the taxpayers. I'm going to drive a hard bargain for the taxpayers. That's what you pay me to do.
Got another email question. This comes from the Star-Ledger, Governor. Marie asked this question about mother's rights. You've talked about this. Governor, I've listened to your explanation about the birth mother rights to privacy, but please explain how a birth mother's rights can be more important than the individual's rights to their own birth certificate.
No, you see, there's so much misinformation out there about this. So
What's
let me
your
try to
position
clear it up.
And then clear it up.
My position is pretty clear, that we have to respect the rights of both sides. And I presented a compromise proposal on adoption records that would respect the privacy for a period of time of a birth parent, but also provide necessary information to adoptees. And let me tell you something, Steve, this is very personal to me. My younger sister, Dawn, is adopted. We adopted her when she was 2 years old. I've sat and talked to her about this issue because I want to know from the perspective of an adoptee, what she thinks about it. And she thought the compromise that I suggested was reasonable. Now, that's not determinative. It's just one person's opinion. But I care deeply about this issue, but I think that we have to respect the rights of both people because birth mothers have given up those children with the promise that there would be confidentiality. I don't think we can wholesale change the rules in the middle of the game. What I tried to suggest was a compromise where both sides could be protected. Legislature didn't go for the compromise, and so we're back at square one where we are.
Joanna, we're going to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and I think it's Shirley. Shirley, how are you? Steve Adubato here with Governor Christie, who is on the line.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Shirley, you there?
Yes.
You're on the air live here from Montclair State University.
I'd like to know what the governor's position is on fracking after the problems in Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Shirley, we will do that, but Governor, I don't want to assume everyone knows what fracking is. I think I know, but I'm not sure.
Fracking is a method of drilling underground, usually a mile or more underneath the ground, to release natural gas from shale deposits that are underneath the ground at that level. And it's a method that involves drilling and the putting down that hole that's drilled, significant water to loosen this gas, natural gas. Some say that there's 100 years of energy underneath the United States in these shale deposits in places like North Dakota, Ohio, and Pennsylvania.
And some environmentalists say it is very dangerous to do that because you're also releasing certain dangerous chemicals into the ecosystem, and it is just not worth it. And you say?
There's a real argument about that right now. And
what do you think?
Well, here's what I say. First of all, I want to note that the Obama administration's EPA administrator, Lisa Jackson,
who was from New Jersey,
was the DEP administrator for Governor Corzine and his chief of staff, came up with a comment just a couple of days ago saying that she believes fracking can be done safely. So, certainly no one would say that Lisa Jackson's anti-environment, especially the environmentalists. So I think that there's a real debate going on in our country about it. So here's what we decided to do in New Jersey. First of all, we have almost no shale under our ground. There may be a little bit in Sussex County, but it's still none that anybody's interested in drilling.
Where is the area then that becomes an issue in New Jersey?
Well,
isn't it really outside the state?
It is. It's in
Pennsylvania.
It's in Pennsylvania and New York, along the Delaware River.
Right.
And so what I've said, the legislature passed this past year a permanent ban on fracking in New Jersey. I said, first of all, no one wants to frack in New Jersey. Secondly, we have no shale. So what are we doing? What I decided to do was to conditionally veto that bill and turn it into a one-year moratorium and say, while the EPA is studying this issue, while the DEP is studying this issue, we won't allow any fracking until we get hard scientific proof about the safety of this issue. It seems as if the EPA on the federal level is trending now, given Lisa's comments, towards saying that fracking should be allowed. I think we should make this final point on this.
Go ahead.
We should make this decision based on the science, not based on emotion.
Got it. Joanna, listen, I want to ask about gay marriage, but I'd rather someone else ask about it. So our timing is right. Governor, it was going to come up sooner or later because it's an important issue in New Jersey and across the country. Is this a Star-Ledger video question from our partners at the Ledger and NJ.com? Let's go to it for the governor.
Why didn't you pass the bill for marriage equality?
Zoe wants to know. Why did you not pass the bill for marriage equality? You vetoed it.
I did. I did. I vetoed it. I conditionally vetoed it, and adding in strengthening of civil unions in New Jersey and putting an ombudsman in charge of receiving and investigating complaints for disparate treatment of same-sex couples. Listen, fact is, I campaigned on the idea in 2009 that I oppose same-sex marriage, that I believe marriage should be between one man and one woman. I've made that position very clear from the time I ran for governor through the time I've been governor.
But positions evolve.
Well, mine doesn't.
Society evolves.
Mine has not. My position has not evolved, and I'm the guy who got elected governor. And so what I did was offer a compromise. I said to the supporters of same-sex marriage, part of their argument is that the people in New Jersey, like that young woman, want same-sex marriage. Okay.
In the polls.
Right, in the polls. So, and they say that's why you should sign it. I say, okay, well, let's have a vote. Let's put it on the ballot, and let's have the people of New Jersey vote. And if they vote to amend the Constitution to allow same-sex marriage, I'm all for it.
But they're not going to win, Governor, and you know it as well as I do.
Listen, I saw a poll this morning, Steve, that says 57% of New Jerseyans support same-sex marriage. So you may say, because you're such an expert in politics, that you know that it's going to not pass. I have no idea.
Governor, in California, when Proposition 8 came up, the polls before said it would pass. With all the money that comes in, listen, you're the expert on politics. I defer to you.
Well, then
do you know that a lot of money, Governor, if a lot of money come in against these propositions, and don't they tend to fail?
And for it. Well, they have tended to fail.
Right.
But I will tell you this, if you're right that positions evolve and thought evolves, we don't know what would happen. And so, listen, I'm offering them an opportunity to put it on the ballot. I've asked all Republicans to support it. Republican Senator Kip Bateman has sponsored the legislation. If they believe that a majority of New Jerseyans want it, then put it on the ballot and prove it. And by the way, that same poll today, 67% of New Jerseyans said they want a right to vote on it. Now, 57%, and this is what's confusing about this issue, Steve. 57% say they support gay marriage. By a 48 to 47 margin, they say they support my veto.
Complex issue, but not going away anytime soon.
Listen, well, I think it is going away in this respect. In this respect,
not for the people who are same-sex couples.
Let me finish my answer. As a political issue in this respect, they know in New Jersey that I've vetoed the bill now. They do not have the votes to override the veto. And we need to move on. It's not that this isn't an important subject, but we need to move on to other topics now. We have other very important issues in New Jersey to deal with. Putting people back to work, getting our economy growing again, reforming an education system that's failing thousands of children every day. We need to deal with those issues too. We've spent now a good amount of time on this issue. We've reached loggerheads on it. I've given them an opportunity to have another out. They say they don't want it. So we need to move on.
I believe we can do that and those other things, Governor.
Well,
we just may disagree.
Listen, well, that's fine, but what are we going to continue to debate about, Steve?
Well, you vetoed it. That's what it is. If they can't override it, that's it.
And that's my only point.
That's fair.
Is that, and if they want to have a further debate on it, let's have the debate surrounding a statewide referendum in a presidential election year when the most people will be voting and the greatest cross-section of New Jersey will come to the polls.
And let's clarify that the president does, in fact, have the same position that you have.
Yes, he does.
Joanna, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who do we have? Vincent, who wants to know about tolls. Boy, do we shift gears dramatically.
Yes.
We go to a question from NJ.com. Vincent from Old Bridge says, Governor, the middle class is struggling. Most earn less than what they did 5 years ago. Yet the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and the Turnpike Authority continue to raise tolls. What's being done to tame these reckless increases?
Well, we've done a few things. First off, the Port Authority, Governor Cuomo and I have ordered an audit. The initial part of that audit has come back with a number of suggestions of changes to save money at the Port Authority. We're going to institute those suggestions in that audit. Secondly, from the Turnpike Authority perspective, I will tell you, those tolls were ordered raised by Governor Corzine, and then he borrowed money based upon that toll revenue stream. And I was not in a position to say that those tolls should not be raised. It would violate the bond covenants that we have with the people who lent us the money, and we'd be sued. So I understand. I may not have, I don't think I would have been in favor of those toll increases at the time, but the fact of the matter is I'm stuck with them. So, there's certain things that you can reverse that your predecessor has done. There's other things you can't. This is under the category of I couldn't. We're
going to go to Norman for a second, but I just want to clarify something. We used to do this program was not always called Christie on the Line. Before that, it was called
Corzine on the Line.
And I asked Governor Corzine the same question about gay marriage. I just want to clarify that he told me he supported it. And at the time, the Democrats controlled both the lower house and the Senate. And they were not able to make this happen when the governor was the governor. I I just want to clarify that question, okay? Because some are going to ask the question, what happened then? But right on this program, the governor clarified that he was very supportive of gay marriage, but it never seemed to get signed into law. We go to Norman in Elizabeth, New Jersey, who has a question about a very different subject. Again, go ahead, Norman, for the governor.
Governor.
Hey, Norman.
You've been leaving the state. How are you? You've been leaving the state quite a bit lately to help the political campaign from Mitt Romney. Who is paying for your trips, and the state police, who also travel with you?
Well, when I travel out of state, the Romney campaign pays for me to be out of state, and that's the way it works. If anybody asks me to go out of state, and I haven't been out of state that often. Since December, I've been out of state 5 times. So I haven't been out of state that often, and most of the time I've been out of state on the weekends.
We go back to the Star Ledger and the NJ.com video team for the governor, as long as he is the governor and not running for national office. Go ahead.
Governor, I'm graduating this year. What kind of job market am I stepping into in New Jersey?
Job market in New Jersey, Governor.
Lisa, it's getting better. It's getting better. Please stay. 60,000 new private sector jobs created in New Jersey since we took office. We're seeing revenue growth at the state level. We're seeing new businesses coming in and existing businesses expanding. And so I think, you're coming out of college at a very good time to enter the job market, much better than the last 3 or 4 years. This is probably the best job market we've had since, we know it's the best job market we've had since the year 2000 in New Jersey. So I think you're doing it at a good time, Elisa. And so hopefully you come out in the job market, you bring your talents and have them stay here in New Jersey and become a taxpayer and a voting citizen right here.
Bergen County, Leonia is up there, right?
Yes.
How many municipalities are in Bergen County?
70-some.
Just want to clarify that. Is that too many?
Probably.
We'll be talking about mergers and consolidations in the next edition of Christie on the Line. Hey, Ernie, you are from Leonia, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you have a question for Governor Christie, right?
Yes, Governor.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. Governor, as an entrepreneur, I'd like to do my part in stimulating the economy, but I'd like to support from your administration in incentives and a direction on how to do our part in stimulating the economy. We have a lot of ideas as far as categories in building and the construction field and in a variety of areas.
Hey,
Sure.
Ernie, do me a favor. Time is tight. Get right to it, buddy.
I think you just asked. Ernie, here's the way you help. The way you help and the way you give your ideas to us is call the Business Action Center. The New Jersey Business Action Center, run by the Lieutenant Governor, Kim Guadagno. It's your interactive place for businesses, small and large, in New Jersey to interact with state government, give us your ideas about what we should be doing, and we'll tell you what we can do for you. So call the Business Action Center. If you go to my website, www.nj.gov/governor, you're going to be able to get a look on there, and you'll see the Business Action Center, and you'll be able to give you the number and email address, and you'll be able to communicate directly with them. There are people manning the Business Action Center every business day of the week to take your calls and to provide you help and to take your input.
By the way, I apologize, Ernie. I cut you off there. Joanna, do you want to go to the caller or the email? Email. This is from Ken in Pine Hill. A question from, actually from Rutgers University at Rowan. Rutgers Rowan question. Governor, how do you justify eliminating Rutgers Camden campus as a choice for South Jersey citizens by allowing takeover of Rutgers campus by Rowan University?
Because it's going to make Rowan a major research university in South Jersey and enhance both the business and economic atmosphere down there and the academic atmosphere. Rowan's added a medical school. The Cooper Medical School is just starting down at Rowan. If you add Rutgers Camden Law School, you now have the 3 major pieces you need for a major research university: a law school, a medical school, and a thriving undergrad school, which is very big in engineering. This is important, and I think consolidating those resources in South Jersey, making it a major presence, is going to be great for South Jersey.
Joanne, I don't think we have time for, let's do this. We don't have time for John. I want to apologize. How much time, guys? Governor, I want to thank you for joining us for Christie on the Line. I want to thank all of our media partners, our folks who paid for this program, our funders. Governor, most importantly, I want to thank you for making it possible for us to be here. Our partners at NJDV and Montclair State University. Thank you, Governor.
My pleasure, Steve. Thanks for having me.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at democracyworks@caucusnj.org and visit us online at caucusnj.org. Christie on the Line has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation and NJTV in cooperation with 134 WNET. WBGO Jazz 88.3 FM, and News Talk Radio 710 WOR. Funding for this edition of Christie on the Line has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons PC, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, United Water, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, Verizon Communications, Barnabas Health, PSE&G, Seton Hall University, TD Bank, Qualcare Inc., Virtua, and by these public-spirited organizations and individuals that support the effort to inform New Jersey citizens about the issues that matter most in our state. Media support provided by the Star-Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.